Hello, and welcome to another angry unit of the week. And today we're taking a look at the Sturmi assault gun. So Finland had a single panzer division, but not a whole lot of tanks, especially more modern tanks. Throughout the war and even into 1944, the most common tank in Finnish service was the T-26, which is definitely a little bit outdated by 1944 standards. You see, Finland didn't exactly produce any tanks of their own. They didn't have the industrial capacity to do such a thing. And so the majority of tanks in Finnish service were Soviet tanks, which they were borrowing for the time being after the crews just left them abandoned in a field. Well, you couldn't just keep on borrowing Soviet tanks, it runs up a bit of a tab. And so Finland was getting interested in actually buying tanks from their German allies. And the main armoured vehicle that they would buy would be Stug 3s. They end up buying just under 60 of them in total by the end of 1944. When the Finns did receive their Stugs, they made quite a few modifications. On the side of the tank, they ended up removing the chutes and side armour and instead replaced it with large logs. This is for extra armour protection. On the rear of the tank, they'd end up adding these large toolboxes for storing more tools, and in the front of the tank, they'd end up actually pouring concrete extra armor for, well, some improved armor capabilities. And they'd end up removing the German machine guns and mounting their own DT machine guns, as they had the ammunition capabilities for, well, Russian machine guns over German machine guns. And by the summer of 1944, when the Russians launched their big offensive, the Sturmi would end up being the most effective armoured vehicle in Finnish service. By official sources, the Sturmis managed to knock out 87 Russian tanks to only 8 Sturmis being lost. Surprisingly, but I guess not too much if you know a bit about the Finnish military, these things remained in active service all the way till 1959, when they were declared obsolete. In-game, the Sturmi is a 80-point assault gun available exclusively to the Finnish Panzer Division, and it has 2 weapons. So you have your rather standard long German 75mm gun, with 36 armor penetration shells and 18 high explosive shells. There's not too much to say about this gun, apart from the fact it's really good. You can kill the majority of armoured vehicles, and it does a pretty good infantry suppression damage. It's just a very good all-round gun. And then instead of having a German machine gun, you have a Russian DT machine gun instead. Pop down to the miscellaneous stat, has 95mm of frontal armor, strong top armor, 50mm inside, and 40mm at back. It goes 33km off-road, 41km on the road, has medium stealth and very low optics. So in battle, the Sturmi is pretty similar to the German Stug 3 as well. It is a Stug 3, with a few modifications. Compared to the actual Stug 3 in-game, however, it's the same price, but the main thing is you got a little bit of extra armor, which is quite nice. However, you do have a slightly worse machine gun, so I guess technically it pays itself off or balances itself out, but really I'd take the better armor over a worse machine gun any day of the week. But in terms of gameplay usage, Stugs and Sturmis in general are really good tanks. You have a decent amount of frontal armor against the T-34-76 Forge, where you have a good chance, especially at long range fights, to actually bounce your shots off. Russian players are going to be more dedicated in bringing in ZIS-2 anti-tank guns, maybe ZIS-3s with APCRs, and 85mm guns to effectively knock out the Sturmis. At closer range, of course, you do want to be careful, because even those Russian 76mm guns can put a hole through your tank, or assault gun, I should say. In this Finnish Panzer Division, you have 2 cards of Sturmis available to you, with a pretty standard availability pattern of 5 in A phase and 10 in B phase, with no C phase card available. It's definitely a must-take, I would say, for the Finnish Panzer Division, as if we look at the other tanks in the division, yes, you got some T-34s, but with very low availability, and the other proper medium tank available is the Panzer IV, and you only get 1 card of them. So you really want to be bringing out Sturmis to actually give you some decent long-range firepower, but you also have the cheaper spam tanks for CQC fights. But overall, the Sturmi is a pretty good medium tank assault gun, whatever you want to bloody call it. It excels more in long-range capabilities compared to shorter-range capabilities, so try to keep it in that sort of engagement. In some maps, that's not going to be much of an option, so you're just going to have to make do. But it's a good medium tank. It's definitely the powerhouse of the Finnish Panzer Division. It's going to be one of the more mainline tanks you're going to be using in that division, and you're going to just have to rely on it. But yeah, it will serve you well, just as long as you don't decide to charge Russian tanks when your gun elevation is broken. That would cause a little bit of issues. And well, I'm going to leave it off at that. This has been another Rang Rouge unit of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as usual, please just take it easy.